All right, I'd like to call our regular board meeting to order. If you'd all please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Hudson?
Here.
Trustee Maravka? Here. Trustee Richards?
Here.
Trustee Sandberg?
Here.
Trustee Sluse?
Here.
Trustee Sturba?
Here. All right. Public comments. Chief, does anybody check to see if anybody's signed up? Thank you. All right. So, Edward Anderson, would you like to speak? Is public comment, or does this have to do with something on the agenda?
It's on the agenda.
Okay.
The variance request.
Okay. Same thing with Nick and Emily?
Yes.
Okay. And Angie. Okay, perfect. So moving on to the consent agenda. On the consent agenda are the minutes of the January 22nd, 2024 regular village board meeting. We also have the payroll and accounts payable. The payroll for the pay period ending January 26th, total of $63,111.26. And then we also have the pay period ending February 9th of $59,116.28. And accounts payable, total of $117,475.34. Of that, the general fund is $83,814.29. The building permit escrow fund, $4,775. Motor fuel tax fund, $10,965.09. The business development district fund, $15,242.96. TIF 1, $1,413.70, and TIF 2, $1,264.30. And then the other item on the consent agenda is a resolution approving the executive session minutes and authorizing and approving the release of certain executive session meeting minutes. Are there trustees, would you like to remove any of the items from the consent agenda?
If we weren't here for the last meeting, should we remove that so we could just, so we don't approve them without being there, or can we just approve everything else?
Can I address that?
Yes.
So, although people commonly abstain when they weren't at the meeting, you're not legally obligated to, as long as you have faith that the clerk is
Done it correctly.
doing her job and correctly
Okay.
creating the minutes, you're free to vote.
Okay, good, then no, I have nothing to remove.
I'll need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion.
Second.
Moved by trustee Hudson, second by trustee Sluse.
Trustee Hudson?
Yes.
Trustee Maravka?
Yes.
Trustee Richards?
Yes.
Trustee Sandberg?
Yes.
Trustee Sluse?
Yes.
Trustee Sturba?
Yes.
All right, moving on to staff and committee reports. Troy, do you have anything besides what's on the agenda?
I don't know.
Okay. Angie, I see that there, anything
I don't
going
have
on?
anything unless you guys have questions for me.
Any questions for Angie? Okay. Chief, you got anything?
No, sir.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question, Mayor?
Yes, you can.
Angie?
Yeah.
A resident had asked me this, so I just wanted to run it by you
Sure.
while you're here. Does replacing the lead service lines have anything to do with, the source switch?
No.
Okay.
It's,
Okay, that's all I wanted to
throughout
know.
the state, everybody has to check.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, I don't have any specific comments tonight. No old business. New business, item D, variance request to allow front yard fence and variance to allow for steel wire fence at 6918 West Corning Avenue. You've got the application in your packet, and if petitioners, if you'd like to step forward and state your name and kind of state your case.
Hi, my name's Edward Anderson. I'm the attorney for Mr. Martinek and Ms. Bowen. A little bit of a disadvantage. We got notice about this being on the agenda Wednesday. I was out of the country. I think there was a request from or an email from Mr. Walters indicating that we needed to bring in a survey with the fence identified on the survey. I don't believe we have that. But here's the background on why we're asking for this variance. Mr. Martinek and Mr. Volin purchased the property in September of 2021. Specifically, before they closed on that transaction, they had requested information regarding whether that parcel was in the village of Peatone. They were told, no, it was not at that time.
By who?
One by the seller, two by the realtors, and the title company. I understand now, since Mr. Walters had presented us with a copy of the annexation document, that that information was not correct. Because the annexation document, from what I've seen, is dated sometime in June of 2021. So the parcel was apparently annexed into the village, and whoever they talked to was incorrect with respect to that. They closed on the property in September of 21, asked about installing the fence. They were told to talk to the County of Will. County of Will did not require a permit. And in July of 2022, Mr. Martinek installed the fence that's at issue today. So I have a couple questions for the board. One, are they satisfied with the documentation in the application? Did they need a survey with the fence identified on the survey? And if so, then I would ask that we table this until the next meeting and we can get a survey. And if they're fine with that, then we can continue with any questions that any of the board members may have of us.
You don't need to get a different survey, all we need is your plat of survey that you got when you closed.
Yeah, I think that was presented
Yeah.
to,
You
as
had
part of
said,
the application.
The petitioner had submitted this,
Yeah, that's, you told me to draw it out.
yeah.
Oh, Mr. Wall, okay, so we have to load, if you want the actual survey, we'll have to pull through the files and see if we can get that for you.
I mean, I don't think that that's particularly relevant to what we need to talk about tonight, so I would ask the trustees if they would like to question, any questions about it. I mean, when you said, you asked about if you needed a permit, I mean, who told you you didn't need a permit?
Mr. Martinek, and I didn't have that conversation, Mr. Martinek did, so if he wants to explain what happened as far as with those questions.
Will County does not require a permit for a fence. Being that I was under the impression that it was unincorporated.
Okay, did you talk to anybody at the village with
Yeah,
respect to
I made
that?
a phone call in and said, checked in to see if I needed a permit or what to do to go about putting a fence in, and they said, well, you're not part of the village, so contact Will County.
And I'm not sure who you talked to, but it wasn't anybody in the building department or me.
It was a phone call to a receptionist, I would assume.
And did you tell the receptionist that you weren't in the village?
I asked if I was in the village. I said I was told before that I was not. I had to check again just to make sure, and I was told again, not in the village. So contact Will County.
So the problem is, you are in the village.
Yeah.
And we do require a permit to put up a fence, and we don't allow front yard fences, and we don't allow, the type of fence that you have, so, we're kind of, I appreciate your predicament, but I don't know that we can, satisfy the variance, without completely ignoring our ordinances, so, unless the trustees have.
I mean, is there a way that we can pull up a map of the property and look at what we have? The way that the property's set up, the way that the property's set up, there's no back door to the house, and really there's not much of a backyard, it's all front yard. Being that it is one of the oldest, from what I understand, early 1800s, the house was initially constructed.
I was wondering why you put the fence in the front yard. I was like,
Trust me,
makes sense.
I would've loved
makes
the
sense.
backyard.
Can you get annexed back and can you remove yourself from being within the Peatone and go back to Will County? Can you get a reversal? Even you're in a bad situation where you had no idea. You've asked the right questions. You've done what you're supposed to do, but it's kind of like you're kind of stuck now because you got to go by the rules and that's what we have in town. However, can you go into Will County? Just stating a general question. Is that a
Well,
possibility?
what would be the village's position with respect to removing this parcel from its jurisdiction?
I don't know that answer right now.
Well,
Yeah,
just for full disclosure, I mean, the village did involuntarily annex that property. So, I guess it'd have to be a policy discussion with the board again to determine if they wanted to reverse what they originally, asked for, as far as kind of bringing in property that's surrounded by the village limits to bring them in, cause essentially, we own the road, public safety services, are most likely gonna be coming from Peatone, or they're at least gonna assist. So, I don't know that there'd be a good reason to de-annex, other than what you're asking for your fence.
No,
This originally came to us as a code complaint by another resident. So I know we've been trying to work with you for some time now.
What do you need the fence for?
dogs.
Do you have a side door by any chance?
So I got a side door, but it opens to the driveway. The driveway extends to the front and the back.
And you couldn't put a small fence back around?
Would that variance be approved, because we would also need one for that?
Possibly. I would
Do you guys-
consider, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Good. Do you want a continuance to bring in photos in the survey and kind of show?
We've got some
board.
photos in the
Oh, okay.
packet of what it looks like.
Drawing.
If you adhere to the fence code and you put it, in a location that's allowed, and you use the proper materials for a fence, and that's in the code, you don't need a variance, you just need to submit a building permit.
But
So
the
you
problem
can in the
is,
front yard.
the problem is the front yard. They have no backyard, apparently. And
You
they
got a
need to-
shed back there, and then you've got another building back there behind the driveway, according to
Correct.
this, so it looks like, from here, this all would be your rear yard,
How
but
do
that's
I-
not big enough?
No, I don't have a way to access that. I'd have to walk out the side.
You'd have to install
Like
another
a
door in the house to be
Either
able
that
to
or
access that.
put the fence off to the side, you would probably still need a variance. That side door by the
Right here?
driveway, yeah, and it could come out a little bit, it would cut
You
into
can
your
come-
driveway, but
you
it
can
could
come
go
off
out.
of any part of this side of the house, just,
Can't be in front of the
just
house.
can't be in front of the house. You could start here, and you could, go this way to your property line, and this way, and this way, and this way, and this way, and then you'd have that door inside there.
So how do I access my parking then?
Well, that's how you would have to figure out your fencing.
Before we get too off of track of the last comment, last year, we had a situation where we had someone kind of snooping around our property. Mr. Martin called non-emergency. We were told to call Will County because we were denied Peatone services. We were denied Peatone police when there was essentially a trespasser on our property. So just before we're going, and I think that problem stems from, on the website currently, I haven't checked today, the old village limits map still does not show us as incorporated.
Yeah.
So that was where the whole thing kind of stemmed from. We did our research before we constructed, and we consulted the county. The county said, sure, go ahead, we don't care. And so that was where it kind of came from. We have, we had that, we saved that map just in case anything came up, and I mean.
Well, that's a zoning map. It is,
It's not
Yeah.
illegal.
no, I mean, we update that once a year, if maybe every
Yeah, but
other
the
year.
property was annexed in 21.
Well, and that's where I find it very, very unfortunately, only because I remember that the woman who had that house, she came in to get it annexed, if I'm correct, she came in to get it annexed into the village for water or sewage, or it was something, I can't exactly remember, but I remember she came to us to have it annexed in, and not all of us agreed on that. But I think it did pass and it did get annexed in, so if that happened in July of 2021, you said, you guys bought the house in September,
Yes,
so
so
that,
the process was right before because we had a 90-day closing. So that had happened, I mean, right before they started contracting, and nobody updated us, our realtor, and we shared a realtor. Our realtor was under the impression that it was dropped, because she never heard anything else about it. So the seller didn't notify us, the realtor didn't notify us, the titling company didn't have anything on it, nothing like that.
So maybe you should talk to your title insurance and say, why didn't you catch this?
Well, yes,
That's a conversation that we're gonna have if the board doesn't grant a variance, which it sounds like that's what we're headed.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think, I mean, the board can tell me differently, but I don't think there's any way that we can grant a variance of this magnitude without setting a precedence that we'll never be able to deny a front yard fence again. You know, or somebody could just go
You
and,
have some unusual circumstances here.
well,
Sir.
everybody has unusual circumstances when they come
That's
for a
the point of
variance,
the
I
variance.
understand that, so.
To allow for unusual circumstances.
Any other
You have-
questions from the board?
My biggest problem is the material of the fence, the look of it.
That's something we can work with also.
I mean,
I'd
it's,
be willing, no.
I mean, if it was like an aluminum type of wrought iron fence, decorative fence,
A little white picket fence, you mean?
some, yes, some
Shorter.
steep, maybe, I don't.
Where you can
My-
see through it.
or maybe if it
Which is
wasn't,
Will County's code is 4 foot for a front yard.
if it wasn't so all the way to the sidewalk, and if it was different material, maybe still, if, not saying it has to be in the front, but if it had to be in that front door, just have it come out and go on that side of your house, into the back, not all the entire front yard.
I mean, if there's a way that we could do something out that door and you can put the fence from the front of the house to the back, as our ordinance states, I think we could probably work with you some, but,
Like,
you
put
know,
it
we have to
down.
follow our ordinance. We can't do that, or we'd have to rewrite the ordinance. I don't think we wanna do that.
The way that the parking is set up there, we lose all the parking.
Well, no, I mean, if you,
So you
Let me
went
see
out
that
the other
paper.
side.
no, like,
Well, you've just gotta make access from that door to where your fenced-in area is. I mean, it could be to the north and to the west of the back of the house, but you've gotta be able to get to it from your door,
so if you couldn't go from here, you didn't wanna go that way,
Right, right.
if we allowed it, like, come off here like 4 feet, just to have them have a walkway and go down and around to the side and to the backyard. So it's not all this in your front yard where people are walking and you could see it right there. And it would have to be the right materials, but, I mean, that could be a variance also that we could possibly discuss,
So,
but I don't know.
I don't think we're gonna solve this tonight. I mean, I would, if the board, if nobody, first of all, is there a motion to approve this request?
No.
Okay, so seeing none, I would suggest that the petitioners work with our staff to figure out if there's a way to move this fence to a spot that agrees with our ordinances.
Well, I guess
Or
the
that
pro-
has a lesser variation.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so do we table this as opposed to getting it denied at this point?
I mean, we're not gonna approve a variance in the front yard at this size of variance. I mean, what do we do?
I mean, if you guys wanna vote so that it's denied, that's fine, otherwise we can
I'm not
just.
looking for a vote to deny it.
Okay.
I'm looking for a solution.
Otherwise, I would just,
Respectfully.
we don't have a motion, I would just take no action and, you guys work and you can amend your request if you come up with something that works for both parties and bring it back at the next meeting.
Okay, I mean, I mean, that's the best solution that we can ask for, because I don't want a denial, because then,
Well, the only reason you'll need to come back here is if you're requesting a variance again. So
Right.
what we're gonna try to do is, we're gonna try to meet what you need and not have a variance. So we wanna try to keep you within the code requirements.
so, okay, so who at the village do we need to work with to get something that's manageable for everybody?
You would need to work with Henry
Okay,
Walters, our building and zoning coordinator,
okay,
and you can always call me, or Henry can talk to me.
okay.
Our only issue with that, ma'am, Mr. Walters isn't very responsive. A lot of the response we get via email is around 4:25 on a Friday. Approximately 1 to 2 weeks after we've sent an initial question or, anything like that to him.
I don't mean to pile on, but I've left Mr. Walters a number of voicemail messages. He's denied receiving them. So,
Well, you can just reach out to me.
thank you. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All
Good
right,
luck, you guys.
moving on, item E, is a resolution which would be 24-R-01, approving a proposal from Iroquois Paving Corporation for Phase 2 streetscape roadway improvements on Main Street, Second Street, and North Street. So Troy, you wanna come up and?
And Mayor, if I
Suck
could,
this
just
up.
before,
Oh, yes.
before we get started, trustee Hudson is not gonna participate in either of the next two items due to owning property in the downtown tip.
Thank you.
So the bid opening was February 1st for the streetscape project. The base bid, which is the one that is, what the award is based on. The winner was Iroquois Paving in the amount of $3,248,914.45. There were 3 other bidders as well, you can see it on your letter there. Iroquois' bid, the low bid was approximately 4% lower than our estimated cost, and they appear to meet all the grant requirements from the state. So because of that, we'd recommend, awarding the base bid to Iroquois, the low bidder. And then there's also the options for alternate 1 and alternate 2, which are shown on there. Alternate 1 is for the section of Railroad Street reconstruction and extra parking spaces, and alternate 2 is for cast iron tree grade option.
Okay, so, there was a, downtown ad hoc committee meeting last week, I believe it was. Yeah, and, they considered those bids, so I don't know if you wanna make a report on that, Shelley?
We did discuss that, and I think we wanted to bring to the board, to vote for the lowest bidder, which was Iroquois, for, the first part, and for also the alternate 1 bid, which is the Railroad Street. And we were gonna just not say, we didn't want the alternate 2 bid, which I can't remember exactly what that part was, but we did
That was
not
the
want.
powder coat.
Oh, yeah, that was it. No, we don't want that. And also, and we would do alternate 2. Alternate 1, sorry, I have 2 written here, it's like really big, it's from my notes from last week, but we want alternate 1 contingent on the purchasing agreement and getting the title and ownership of the area. I think, the Drawley family owns that, so it'd be contingent on that before we go, I guess, further with alternate 1. And I think we also discussed a communications specialist for keeping the businesses in the know when the whole downtown is torn up. And there was some like ifs and ohs, or ifs and buts about that one. I was actually gonna make a suggestion, instead of paying an outside person, would there be a way to maybe talk with the Peatone Commerce to see if they could do what this specialist claims to do, and maybe they would actually be more into it because they're in town, like putting out flyers or contacting people, not just with Facebook, but, just kind of working more closely with the village and everything, just to keep the businesses
So we're gonna,
up to
that's
date.
kind of the next item on the
Oh,
agenda,
okay.
we'll discuss that, so let's
Okay,
So-
we'll stop with that one.
Yeah, questions from the board?
Yeah, we got an email, I think it was Friday, about the budget for next year right there. I saw we had to pull money out of the general fund.
Right.
That's, if we pull money out there for the downtown project and everything, that's not gonna affect anyone else's budgets, like departments or anything like that?
No.
No.
Because that's all money that is gonna be repaid, but, so it's not like we're reducing anybody else's budget for that. Sure. Yeah.
Can I ask a question about the contingency for
Yes.
the acquiring the property? I mean, if you have to tell Iroquois you have the bid and we want alternate one, and we're still dealing with details related to this property, I'm not sure the timing's gonna work. Are you concerned about that?
Yes.
Okay.
Cause I think they're gonna wanna know
Right.
early
Right.
on if that's gonna be part of it.
So when would we be able to work with them, or?
I mean, I guess it depends on how quickly you can get title, I don't know.
Yeah, so it's ordered,
Yeah.
and then we just have to button up the details and do the closing, but it still may be, you know, if stuff pops
Yeah.
up on title
Oh,
or
yeah.
whatever else, things tend to drag on,
Right.
so.
I mean, if it doesn't happen in time, then we just don't do it.
So
How soon do you think Iroquois needs to know?
they won't need to know right away, but they're gonna have to order lights, and those take time, cause there's extra lights in that section, so that'd be the biggest issue. Other than that, I don't think they'd be too worried about it, except for when they're going to start, you know.
Sure.
The
But,
cost is astronomical to order lights at a later date too.
Okay. So would 2 weeks, a month, what, I mean, what,
yeah, I would think, I mean, the contracts probably will usually take 2 or 3 weeks to get it totally approved, so
Okay.
maybe, 3 weeks.
so I'm trying to think how to best to word the contingency. I mean, you guys can always, we could make a contingent on acquiring the property, or what if it was just, I don't know if we're gonna do a donation agreement or not, do you think we need one, or you just wanna go ahead and?
What do you mean a donation agreement?
So usually if somebody's donating property,
Yeah.
we have a little agreement that details, you know, who's paying what closing costs and that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Which would, to come back to the board.
Okay.
And we need a resolution authorizing the acceptance of the property.
Got it.
So let's make it contingent. If things don't go well, we'll revisit this in 2 weeks, but we'll see
Okay.
what kind of progress we can make.
Okay,
on it.
awesome.
Okay?
Great. Other questions? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 24-R-01.
Motion.
Second.
Moved by trustee Sluse, second by trustee Maravka.
Trustee Maravka?
Yes.
Trustee Richards?
Yes?
Trustee Sandberg?
No.
Trustee Sluse?
Yes.
Trustee Sturba?
No.
And Mayor, yes. Okay. Moving on, so the next is the resolution, changing this is the discussion item. We're going to table any type of action on this until a future meeting. So we talked about doing some kind of public relations campaign to keep the businesses and the residents informed of what's going on in town with the streetscape project. And so one proposal we got was from Sarah Marion of Athena Advisory, who is here tonight. And you have her agreement in the packet. And Sarah, if you want to come up to the podium, and I know some of the trustees have some questions for you.
Good evening, thanks for having me and for entertaining the proposal. So if you have any questions, and I can certainly appreciate your sentiment of working with the chamber. As a former chamber leader, I know everything there is about leading a chamber, and Julie, I know we were partners in crime there. But I think the main thing knowing how much is on her plate as a chamber leader to put everything on her to put this campaign together is a lot. So it would be nice to have somebody else to kind of work with and almost like coaching wise work with her, because I've been through it, you know, in Mantino with the, you know, beautification process. So yes, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
So what kind of materials do you put out there? Like, what do you do exactly?
Yeah, so it would be comprised of PR campaigns, so press releases that would go to the media, to radio stations, newspaper, that sort of thing. And then also compiling letters to the businesses to keep them abreast of what's happening, as well as to the residents, so they're always knowing what's going on, in addition to social media, which is just a small part of that. And then also creating event plans to help the businesses with, you know, ideas for events, and also with the ribbon cutting for the big reveal of the event, as well as maybe some things, I had some ideas in there, but possibly, you know, doing something like a renovation progress tour, a shovel ceremony, things to get the community excited about it, so it's not the negative, focusing on the positive of this, because I read the paper's article from the other night, and it sounds like there's a lot of fear, and I understand that, because with change there is fear. And so the way to mitigate that is through communication, and so that's where having a public relations person come in, no matter if it's me or somebody else.
Good, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming you use Facebook.
Yep.
What other sources do you, I mean, would it be the newspaper? I understand the radio too, I heard
Yep.
that. But what about what else?
Because not everybody gets the pitch of that, that's all I'm gonna say, and I know,
Yep.
yeah.
Well, radio is definitely something that I leaned on a lot in my previous years, and Facebook, Instagram, those kinds of things. It's like you can send smoke signals, and sometimes people, I never heard about this,
Right.
but it's having posters up in businesses and having maybe town hall meetings to answer questions that residents may have. So utilizing the village's website, of course,
That was another one.
that's a big one, and leaning on the chamber. The chamber is a spokesperson for the business community, so I think that's very important that the chamber's on board and understanding what's going on and keeping involved, so. And the school district too, that's another one, schools, the library, getting everybody on board and on the same path.
Other questions? Okay, well, if there are no others, like I said, we're gonna table this until a future meeting, and Sarah will let you know.
Yeah, thank you for your consideration
Yeah.
and having me tonight, and best of luck.
Thank you for coming.
For sure.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item G, an ordinance declaring surplus property and authorizing the disposal of surplus property. In your packet, you had a list of some older vehicles that are no longer being used by the police department and public works department. There's a 2009 Chevy Impala, 2008 Ford F-350, a 2007 Ford Escape, 2007 Ford Crown Victoria, there's actually two of those, a 1993 GMC Top Kick, and a Dodge Caravan. So we would like to declare these surplus properties so that we can either auction them off or do a sealed bid, or just to get them off our property again. So,
I'll motion.
Second.
moved by trustee Rvbm, second by trustee Sturba.
Trustee Hudson?
Yes.
Trustee Maravka?
Yes.
Trustee Richards?
Yes?
Trustee Sandberg?
Yes.
Trustee Sluse?
Yes.
Trustee Sturba?
Yes.
All right, questions of the press?
No.
All right. Any other correspondence from the board? Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Moved by trustee Sluse, second by trustee Sturba. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.